Onapsis is the leading provider of solutions to protect ERP systems from cyber attacks. Customers can secure their SAP and Oracle business-critical platforms from espionage, sabotage, and financial fraud risks. Visit them on the web at onapsis.com. The SANS Institute, the most trusted source for computer security certification training and research. Visit SANS.org to explore their full curriculum and latest training offerings. NetSparker, the developers of desktop and cloud-based web application security scanners that enable you to automatically identify vulnerabilities in your web applications and web services. NetSparker scanners employ a unique and dead-accurate vulnerability scanning engine that automatically verifies vulnerabilities with their proof of concept. For more information, visit them on the web at netsparker.com or email at contact@netsparker.com. Welcome back, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. This is our fabulous excuse me, technical segment even. Smoky in here. I think I turned the fans off earlier.
Yeah, that would be
why it's so smoky in here.
We should have one of the production assistants come turn one on.
We should. They're both on. Never mind. We're
right.
just smoky tonight.
Everybody's turned on around here.
I will. My keyboard is not.
Must be the crack.
Teleprompter's not working. So I'm going to jump right into the technical segment and introduce our special guest for that. Mr. Joe Vess and Andrew Chiles are here with
Chiles.
God damn it.
We practiced this.
We did practice
You're
this.
just going to... I just pronounce it my way from now on. That's what you're going to have to do.
All I can say is, Joe, you're not representing with the shirt, man. But it is behind the shelf.
I'm not twinsies with Andrew. I know I represent MINIS, but I am not twinsies. I got the MINIS skateboard up behind me.
Exactly.
All right, so you guys both work for MINIS. What is MINIS?
MINIS is a company that myself and another individual, James, started about 3 years ago, mainly focusing on red teaming and offensive operations.
Awesome. And what is your technical segment tonight, gentlemen?
Tech segment tonight is basically something Casey Smith tweeted, maybe a few weeks ago about so Microsoft was, let me read exactly what he said. He said it's it assigned Mimikatz in 3 steps. And basically it's the idea of ripping material off of a binary and shoving it into another. Nothing new, but it got me off my butt to take a tool and technique that Andrew and I have been using for a long time and rebuild it, fine tune it, and publish it. And it produces some interesting results. So I'm going to let Andrew drive and show you what this does.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right, let me share my screen.
Dun, dun, dun. Yay.
There it is.
And he's on the right Skype machine. Yay!
Woo! Yeah, so to completely derail it, Joe is an author, Sec 564, upcoming training. I don't know if you want to talk about any of those, Joe, or I can get straight into the demo.
What is 564? Red Team Operations and Threat Emulation?
That is it. It's the new red teaming course for SANS. I'm the co-author on that course, and I've been teaching it quite a bit. We just got through beta. And in this, as you see in this slide here, this on Tyson's Corner last weekend, I was out teaching the first non-beta course. So it's graduated to a full course, and it is the first red teaming course from SANS.
And when you say full course, it is 2 days currently, correct?
2-day course, yes, 2-day
Excellent.
course. It is a 2-day course. 6 days is in the works. We're hammering out details on that now. But to get it out there and help teach the fundamentals, the basics of what you need for red teaming, this course more than does that in those 2 days. It is jam-packed with lots of material.
So I've heard. So I've heard.
Sweet. Take it away, guys. It's all you.
All right. Go ahead, Andrew.
Perfect. So MetaTwin, it's our topic for the day. Essentially, it's a metadata, a binary metadata, an executable or a DLL, as you were, on Windows. This is a Windows-based tool, PowerShell specifically, used to copy the metadata, the file attributes, as well as signatures, authenticode signatures from a legitimate, say, Microsoft signed binary to a malicious payload. In this case, today we'll demo Beacon.
So, Andrew, I'm just going to stop you there quick. So, as an attacker, I would use this tool so that my malicious binary could have the same signature as a good trusted binary, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It would not be valid. It's not a valid binary, but it has one, and
it would have the same metadata. It would have the same metadata as a good binary.
So in context, the way this was really used was, and I'll put it in terms of red teaming primarily, but you're looking at flavoring your threats is what I call it. Mm-hmm. You're taking normally what you might have done old pen testing days was just straight Metasploit interpreter payloads, just drop whatever that it creates and throw it on disk. But when you're trying to create or emulate some sort of threat or provide certain indicators that maybe you want the blue team to work on, this allows you to have a look and feel, and you can design a scenario, whether it's in a scenario base or a full red team engagement, basically for the blue team to have some good, realistic, high fidelity things to hunt. That's
so
really
is the goal to evade detection?
It is to look and blend in as best as possible. Mm-hmm. It does evade some tools, mm-hmm. but it's really designed to evade the analyst. Okay. So maybe some tool triggers, and as you know, they're bombarded with so much information. If you can just hide just enough, they're going to mark that as false positive and move on.
I see. No, that's perfect.
Yeah, perfectly valid. That's a Microsoft sign barrier.
Yeah, I like that.
It works wonderful to trick analysts, and they get mad when you show them what you've done. Mm. But this has been going on. So I saw some posts. Didier Stevens did a lot of the stuff. I saw stuff as 2007, 2008. Andrew and I have been using this since we've been working on the red teaming side long before MINIS. Just this technique for many, many, many years. But it's just been some really bad scrap together bash scripts and such that we put together. So I thought, let me jam together a PowerShell version.
Awesome. All right. Go for it.
Yep. Yeah, and it's still essentially it's a PowerShell wrapper. It uses a resource hacker binary, basically freeware binary, and a Python compiled version of SigThief. So I've got some commands pre-staged here. Essentially, you start up PowerShell in execution policy bypass mode, as we're all very familiar with. Do you ever run PowerShell? Import module will import it. Well, one caveat with this particular script is because it does rely on some binary resources in the library, if you just import the module and try to run it, it'll fail because it doesn't know where to look for those dependent binaries. So we'll start it up. Essentially, this command is taking a legitimate source binary on my Windows 10 host of explorer.exe, and it's going to copy that to my target of a stageless beacon SMB payload. And it's also going to strip the authenticode signature out and tack it on. And this takes about a minute because explorer.exe has a ton of resources for some reason. It's icons and such.
No.
Really? Yeah.
Can't imagine.
It takes a 200 kilobyte binary, give or take, for a beacon into over 2.5 megs just from the resource data.
Wow.
And it seems that would be crazy, but that actually helps blend in because it looks and feels more realistic of a Microsoft binary.
Yeah, so when it finishes, you get just a brief output of the metadata that was copied to our new signed SMB beacon. And then we also see the authenticode signature here that was copied and that has a mismatch, but it does have a signature. So we'll look at that just briefly, what it looks like from if you're just looking at the file on disk. So far, it's just like a DLL, nothing out of the ordinary. Hey, digital signature, Microsoft Windows. That's interesting. Yep, not valid. But as we'll see later, who clicks that? It's signed. Totally legit. Nothing
a lot of tools don't validate either.
And so also, if you're just looking at the metadata here, like there's nothing that stands out. It looks like legitimate explorer.exe, except the name. Obviously, it's DLL, and the name doesn't match. But so let's look at this in some of the sysinternals tools. So on this host, I've installed 3 different persistence mechanisms, 2 with a DLL called linkinfo.dll, which is a well-known Windows 7, Windows 10 Explorer hijack Basically, you drop that link info DLL and see Windows, and Explorer.exe will preferentially load that DLL from that directory. Also, a WMI event, and from Matt Graber's work. And the next, and the very first one was actually a rundle32, which just calls the start W function of the export from the link info DLL. So first we'll look at autoruns. Very common tool a defender might use to see what's persisted on the box, what's surviving a reboot. So the very first one, I've kind of made it look like they stand out a little bit. That's the run DLL32 schedule task. And right here, right off the bat, I called it MetaTwin so we could see it. But if you actually look, I guess it's kind of small, but if you actually look at the...
you can change the font size, can't you?
Can you?
Too much. Too much.
Ah. Well.
Sorry.
Make it bigger.
That's what she...
Bigger.
Bigger. Wait for it. Wait.
No.
You're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Never smaller.
What is going on? Come on, autoruns. I don't know what it's doing.
I don't know why operating systems and applications haven't been able to figure out a reliable way to zoom. This is something that those of us that teach and do presentations is like the bane of our existence.
There's like some keystroke you can do on the Mac, and I have no idea what it
And
is.
there's one in Windows, and there's supposedly one on Linux that involves the super key. Anyway,
which one is the super key?
The super key is the one with the little Ubuntu symbol on it. If you have a Linux laptop,
I don't.
Yeah.
So it's the Windows.
So, yeah, it's
the Windows. I think so.
The Mac accessibility options actually do not show over Skype. I was testing this earlier.
Yes, and that's the problem I have with the Zoom in Ubuntu doesn't show on external monitors. So there's like weird things like that. So
wonderful.
It's small text. It's fine.
Okay, well,
you just have to narrate
so
better.
Take my word.
Yeah.
That you look at this block of Windows host process rundle32. That's the very first one. Everything just doesn't really stand out. If I didn't call it MetaTwin, there'd be nothing to call your attention to it. So let's look at WMI. Autoruns was after a lot of the WMI work, specifically from Matt Graber. I know Autoruns was updated to show WMI persistence techniques, and so on this one you can see that there are none. And I can confirm that it is there and it is running, but this is an artifact of this particular tool. Nothing against sysinternals, they're awesome. Nothing against autoruns, it's awesome. But sometimes the default configuration, which an offender, an analyst, may be running with, if they're not don't really know their tool really well and expanding the options that are available there, things are hidden from you. In this case, it's because some of the Microsoft entries are hidden by default.
Mm.
So if you go to options and uncheck the Microsoft and then back and uncheck Windows, then now you see some of this persistence. And it's simply because it's not even the signature. It's because the publisher says Microsoft Corporation.
That's it. That is it.
So, and it's like, it's kind of trivial stuff that we're doing here, but it works. It makes great scenarios when you're, say, pre-positioning for a defense. Like one of the things we've done a lot is pre-position in a network and set up varying levels of persistence with more increasing levels of complexity, and then seeking a group of defenders in this like kind of test environment and just kind of seeing at what level they can get to deconstruct what we've done. And the metadata has been great for that.
Great. Now, you've done this with a stageless beacon. Now, will the beacon still execute?
Yes. So let's
Beautiful.
go to...
Oh, yeah, no problem.
No problema, senor.
No problem. Now, I will say when I was writing it and doing some things, I did break it. And that was just normal process of finding errors and trying to make the tool a little bit smoother and catch problems.
Yeah, so we can look in Process Explorer. again, we'll hunt down the 3 different persistence mechanisms. So right off the bat, one, explorer.exe. You go through here and look at some of the loaded modules. And I've already pre-positioned this, that I found the linkinfo.dll loaded. I know it's mine because I loaded it in C Windows linkinfo.dll. And I also added a signature or a column that's not in there by default, not visible by default in Process Explorer, and that's the verified signer. And then you also have to tell it to go scan all the binaries and see if those signatures are valid. And what do you know? It did not verify. It is Microsoft Corporation.
So it's listed as the verified signature as Microsoft, but did not validate.
Correct.
Yeah, it failed validation because obviously it is a mismatched signature.
Right.
So depending on your analyst, this could be having an invalid signature, can be good, can be bad, depending on the tool. It's really, we want to highlight the differences in the tools and how you can really stress the environment, stress the analyst, stress the tool, stress the configuration settings they're using to really make sure that they're covering all the bases.
Yep. Now, of course, my question of thinking about that, about having the non-verified signature and such, are there, and I'm just thinking about this to make it even more difficult, are there stuff out there that you'd find in common use that would in fact be signed but not be verified, that you would potentially find, like maybe a video driver or some other, quote, unsupported driver, some old piece of hardware that would make it even more evil?
So this is Microsoft, which is a trusted certificate.
Sure.
And it's so if you have some other third-party driver that they have their own certificate chain that is not trusted, you could have very similar reaction, but it would still, I guess, the CA signing chain would still be broke. I haven't seen what the various tools would look like as far as the message on there. That's actually a pretty interesting way to go about it. To be honest, my favorite thing is to steal code signing certificates from a target and then use those to sign my own binaries.
Even better.
That's a whole different.
That's a whole different animal altogether.
Yeah.
We'll see you in 10 to 15, Joe.
Yes.
All right. So one of the other really interesting side effects of just copying the metadata and the signature that Joe noted and put in a blog post was just loading. He just, out of curiosity, loaded into VirusTotal just to see what the results were. And on the blog post, he started with a meterpreter binary and noticed that just with the metadata alone, he got 7 less AV detections on a stock meterpreter. And then again, with the signature, 5 less detected it. So still it's high detection rate, but it's a stock meterpreter. Like there's nothing been done to it. It's been out there, for over a decade. So I'm surprised 65 out of 65 aren't detecting this. But
right.
So again today, instead of meterpreter, I did an SMB beacon, and I did one more iteration or basically 4 iterations. One just the plain, no metadata, no binary, just a plain SMB beacon, a stage list, which means the full payload is packaged in that the DLL, and then one with the metadata added, one with just the signature added, and then a final with the metadata, combine the metadata and signature. So let's look at that. And I was pretty surprised on this one. So actually, I'm using a custom C2 profile with Cobalt Strike, which that allows you to change some of the indicators, some of the name pipes that are being used, some of the in-memory indicators as well. I believe this is just using static analysis. So some of the those in-memory artifacts aren't necessarily in view here. But so just right off the bat, there's only 4 out of 65.
Whoa.
We get in-game, not 32, Icarus, that's just a plain SMB. So, okay, cool. So just for comparison, the next one is just metadata. Surprisingly, way more people all of a sudden pick this up because there's Microsoft metadata in this binary.
Huh.
But that's different from meterpreter. When the meterpreter, you saw that it increasingly got less.
Yep.
So this is metadata only. 11 out of 66. Now, this is the signature only. What the heck? So again, in-game, Nod 32, Icarus, eGambit. Basically the same guys. But except this time, CrowdStrike is now saying, hey, there's a signature mismatch. So before, they did not at all detect that it was Cobalt Strike, but they're indicating that the invalid signature now makes it malicious.
Right.
So now with everything...
I like that one of our sponsors is on the list of having detected it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting to see this, and VirusTotal to check this is more just I take it not necessarily for checking for AV, but more just an understanding of how different security tools view changes. Mm-hmm. And the goal is not to get to a zero detection. The goal is to, at least in the way we approach this, is to have a look and feel that you're trying to design, which could be even if you may want to get caught and verify that, say, a blue teams or the security operations group actually know how to respond to what they're seeing. Or on the other side, you might want to try to hide. And then this could be used a way to, in addition to other bypass mechanisms, to blend in even further. But like Andrew said, there was nothing special done other than a standard Cobalt Strike beacon with a profile, and then we just add a little bit of seasoning to it to make it changed up a little bit. But the actual executable part of the binary has not been modified at all.
Awesome.
Yep, and you go back to Larry's previous question. He asked, was it still functional? And yeah, it's definitely, there's 3 different instances of, I don't know how they're interacting with each other, but there's 3 different instances of Cobalt Strike's beacon trying to attach to that name pipe.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I don't know how it would function if I actually try to connect to it, but I do know that the name pipe is running, and that's basically the way I know that if you use a custom name pipe and an SMB beacon, and you can check for the presence of that, and if you see it, then other than also noting that the DLL is loaded in the process list, or as a module that's loaded by Explorer, or to see that run DLL32 is running, or that our fake Explorer.exe is running, you can also check for that name pipe. And so ultimately with everything, not that we're trying to evade AV, but with the metadata and the signature, now we got CrowdStrike, ESET, and Icarus are the only 3 that detected this. So pretty interesting. If you want to get a copy, you can check out our GitHub, MINIS LLC/MetaTwin. It's pretty basic. You clone the repository. There is one dependency that you have to download. The link is in the README. Basically, resource hacker, you download it and you extract the binary to a specific location, a source directory on the disk. And then there's usage, pretty basic. Just import the module. Make sure you CD to the directory that you've extracted everything to, and then invoke MetaTwin. Give it a source, a target, and tell it whether you want it to sign.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Sweet.
Pretty basic.
And I'm assuming you folks cover this in your SANS course. Is that correct?
Yes. So sort of, I guess I would say. This gets into, I usually add this as an add-on to the course, just to add some context, primarily around C2 design. So when you're looking at creating a threat profile, C2 design, and in basically an entire campaign, how would you design your look, your feel, all the IOCs that come along? Basically, you want to stay in control the entire time of what you look like and feel like when you're doing red teaming. And this is just one of those pieces that how you could flavor this. I'm actually speaking at an ISSA conference in Raleigh next week, basically talking about what Andrew just spoke of, but putting in context of how could you use this in a command and control campaign, and what would it look like.
Awesome. Well, best of luck on your SANS course. Thank you very much for appearing on Paul Security Weekly for this technical segment. Again, we'll try and put the links in the show notes to your project. There is a link in there already, which I believe goes to your blog. Is that correct? Threatexpress.com?
Yes.
Yep.
That's
Okay. That's it.
So that link is already there, so our listeners can check it out. thank you very much, Joe and Andrew, for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Larry. Jeff.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, I got a quick question before you go. Andrew, what in the heck is that microphone?
To blue.
The snowball.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a blue snowball.
Okay, got it. Yep.
Pretty sexy looking, huh?
It is. It looks like something out of the Terminator or something.
Mm.
Yeah, old school podcasting mic.
Now Paul's gonna want one.
And Paul,
they're good. What was that, Joe?
Paul, side note. So I brought Ben Clark on the show probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe.
Yes.
We talked about RTFM.
Yes, I remember that.
Time ago. So
nice.
Anyway.
Well, keep up the great work, guys. Thanks again for coming on the show. With that, We'll take a short break. Come back, and we're going to talk about the security news this week. Stay tuned for some Kraken Rocka.